I made a mistake in recalling the events of 12 years ago. It did not take long to hear from some brave men and women in the air crews who were also in that desert. I want to apologize. I said I was traveling in an aircraft that was hit by RPG fire. I was instead in a following aircraft.
NBC's Brian Williams apologizing for an Iraqi war story that turned out to be untrue. With Miranda Khan, J.D. Hayworth welcoming you back now for Hour 3 of America's Forum. And let's turn to one of our very good friends, political commentator Michael Reagan. You can follow him on Twitter. His handle is @ReaganWorld. Michael, welcome back. And to the world of Brian Williams, is it about to fundamentally change? Will he be able to keep his job with NBC Nightly News?
Well, it's NBC Nightly News. He may very well be able to keep his job with them, but I mean, listen to that apology. That story's been out there since what, 2003?
2000.
So it's been out there 11 years, and because guys from the military came forward and said that's just a lie, he finally had to admit it was a lie. And how ask anybody in the military, how are you mistaken if you were either under fire or not under fire? I was either being shot at by RPGs or I was not being shot at by RPGs. I was either hit by an RPG or I wasn't hit by an RPG. To figure out 11 years later, I was mistaken. I was really an hour behind those planes that were being shot at by RPGs and had to land in the desert. I mean, it's just a silly, and I know Brian Williams, and I know the great work he does with the military. I know the great work he does with the Medal of Honor Society. I know all these things. I've been to these events and talked to him and just lift him up for what he does. But how do you get caught lying like this for 11 years and then use some lame duck excuse that you now realize I was an hour behind the ones being shot at? I mean, it's just so asinine.
Michael, does it undermine his credibility?
Oh, absolutely, it undermines his credibility. Absolutely. I mean, how do you trust, what he's going to tell you? And we're going to find out 11 years later that, in fact, well, it really wasn't the truth. And remember years and years ago with the Iraqi war, and the CNN chief in Iraq came out and finally said, we knew about all these things with Saddam Hussein. We just never reported all these things with Saddam Hussein because we wanted to keep our CNN, home base there in Baghdad, and we knew if we told the truth, he'd kick us out of Baghdad. So for all those years, they lied about what Saddam Hussein was doing. I'm really getting tired of the mainstream media lying to get things done, and I think more and more Americans are starting to figure this out and say, hey, this has got to stop.
Which is why we're grateful we're not the media, we're Newsmax TV, and why we're pleased to have your comments today, Michael. 2.5 minutes remain in this segment. Let's switch to another topic. In the wake of that horrific execution of the Jordanian pilot, now King Abdullah is talking about personally getting involved in the airstrikes against ISIS. It's one thing to lead from the front, but is this too much to have the monarch in a cockpit perhaps taking part in this?
No, I mean, welcome to that area of the world. Listen, you were in Congress. They do things a little differently over there than we do over here. And, for him to be involved. I mean, this is a guy who says, I'm going to lead. I'm going to be in the front. I'm absolutely outraged at the savagery that went on and how one of our pilots was, in fact, murdered, lit on fire in a cage. And the people of my country are outraged by it. And as a leader, I'm going to lead and show them how outraged I am by this. And what did he say? I will spend all my fuel, I'll spend all my bullets to put these people down.
Did you actually look at the entire video?
No, I mean, I didn't. I really didn't. I don't need to look at the video to understand who these people are, and the savagery that. I mean, we've seen the beheadings. We know all of these things. We've seen people lit on fire before in streets of the Middle East, women and what have you, that this has happened to. So it's not the first time they've lit somebody on fire. So I'm not surprised by it, but I'm somewhat gladdened that America is waking up to the savagery that's out there, and that America's saying, maybe now it's time we need to really be engaged with these people. These people are we cannot allow these people to win the day.
Michael Reagan, we will continue our conversation following the break, but now we want to take time out for a special programming note. Tonight, right here on Newsmax TV, you can see a Newsmax special. Chris Kyle, A Hero Speaks, a special 1-hour program that tells the story of the American sniper in his own words and the words of those who knew him best. That's tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern and again at 11 p.m. Eastern here on Newsmax TV. Alongside Miranda Kahn, J.D. Hayworth back with you on America's Forum. Miranda, 2016 presidential hopefuls are already stirring things up, trying to put feelers out and test the waters.
Yes, for a potential bid. A handful of them are looking to a 91-year-old source for guidance. Politico calls the phenomenon the, quote, Kissinger primary, referring to former National Security Advisor Henry Kissinger and the GOP candidates who have met with him, among them Governor Scott Walker, Marco Rubio, Chris Christie, and Rick Perry. Politico says he has become a Yoda-like figure, bestowing credibility and a statement's aura to politicians of both parties, including ones who may not actually share his worldview.
A Yoda-like figure. Run for president, you might. Talk with me, you shall.
Nicely done.
Thank you. Yoda, any similarity, just vocal, I guess. Speaking of a guy who gets vocal, it's our good friend, political commentator Michael Reagan, who rejoins us now. And a reminder to you, you can find him at Twitter, or on Twitter. His handle is @ReaganWorld. Mr. Reagan, this still Henry Kissinger's world in terms of foreign policy expertise on the Republican side?
Yeah, you think by now we would have new people on the ground. It's a new era. I mean, Henry Kissinger, great guy for his time, but we're in a different time. I mean, people keep on asking what would Ronald Reagan do, but we're in a different time. I mean, when those people were in charge, we had 3 television stations. We didn't have all the media. We didn't have all the talk radio. We didn't have all these Islamic, savagery going on. It was really a different time. The Cold War was going on. Vietnam was going on. We're at war against the country. We're not at war against, what we're at war against now. And so I think we need to upgrade. I think we need to upgrade to people who are familiar with this period of time and can give us, insight, at this point in time in our history. And Henry Kissinger, great respect for him, but I think he's past the prime.
But, Michael, doesn't history repeat itself? I mean,
well,
there's a reason why all these people are turning to him, so...
I realize, yes, because he's like a godfather out there, like a Yoda, he's like a godfather out there. But there's got to be some new blood. It's like you have Republicans out there think that they can only go to people who have run presidential campaigns before, who have never won a presidential campaign. They think they're the ones to go to run their campaign. And, they'll end up losing, or they'll go to consultants who are only interested in the greenback dollars going to their bank account instead of consultants who truly believe in the candidate that they're consulting with. I mean, we just make terrible mistakes in this. And go bow down to Henry Kissinger, say, hi, what do you think? And you got a great operation. But I think really, most of the people, everybody alive in this day and age, except for us old guys, know who Henry Kissinger, don't know who Henry Kissinger is. I think it's time that we really need to look at young blood. We have a new savagery. We have a new era. We have a new world that we're living in. It's not the Cold War world. And we need to have insight to how to handle that end of the world. And at this point, we're really not. It still comes down to the President of the United States of America making a decision and say what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. What was the President of the United States doing this morning at the prayer breakfast? I mean, he was equating what's going on today to the Crusades. I mean, the President of the United States is out of his mind.
Well,
everything's moral equivalence.
I would be remiss in about the minute 15 we have left, Michael. Tomorrow would have been your dad's birthday. It'd be what tomorrow? 104, I believe.
104. In fact, I will be at the library
That is excellent to know you'll be out at the library in Simi Valley. Just want to go back. Can you tell us, we brought up Kissinger earlier. How did your dad regard Dr. Kissinger?
We had great respect for Dr. Kissinger, because they were all in the same era. He had great respect for him. But he also had others that he went to and talked to. But ultimately, the end result of my father in his foreign policy and other policies, he would take it all in and he would make that final decision. Remember when he went into Grenada, J.D., he took a vote in the Oval Office and it was 7-3 against him going into Grenada, and he was in the 3. And he went into Grenada, and one of those guys in the 7 called my dad on the phone and said, "Wait a minute, we voted on this, and you were in the minority. You were in the 3, and you still went into Grenada. Will you tell me why?" He said, "Yes, because I'm the President of the United States of America. My 1 vote far outnumbers your 7.
Amen. That's the commander-in-chief at work. And it is worth noting, though he respected Dr. Kissinger, President Reagan had a much more muscular foreign policy against the Soviet Union instead of détente dominance. And I love the great line from your dad. Here's my philosophy on winning the Cold War. We win, they lose. Michael Reagan, it's so good to have you the day before your dad's 104th birthday, or when it would have been, and we thank you so much for your time.
But we're having issues
And I'm looking
with
forward
Russia
to being
again.
in studio with you next Friday.
That's a great promise. We'll hold you to it. Hey, a good promise. Another prominent young governor on the cover of the February edition of Newsmax magazine. Scott Walker there. You can get your copy free. Newsmax.com/magazine.